I'm sure they killed my mother, and probably they also killed my father. I have a chance to go to Sweden. And guess what? There I'm going to live in the king's castle. 8 years and a few months old. Well, I came down with typhus. And many of you know that Anne Frank unfortunately died of typhus in Bergen-Belsen before it was liberated. Miraculously, I got well, and in August 1945, I ended up in Sweden with a big ship. They didn't take me to the king's castle. I ended up in an orphanage, and in that orphanage was Luba, and she became like all of our mothers. Amazing, amazing lady. I kind of became a little mischievous. They were teaching us, building up our self-esteem. The first time I attended school, and I learned how to speak Swedish, German, and Polish, because all the kids around me were Polish. And I forgot how to speak Hungarian. One day, they called my name out. I have to go to the principal's office. I tried to remember, what did I do so bad? Couldn't remember. As I go into the principal office, he makes me sit down. He tells me my father survived. And through the International Red Cross, they found me. And they want me to go back to my papa. So against my previous statement, in 1947, January, I flew the first time on a plane from Stockholm to Prague, and then with a train, I met my father. My father spoke several languages. I understood Hungarian, but I couldn't utter the words. He tells me, I have a new mother and a new little brother. I just turned 10. I mean, 10 is still a little child. But world experience-wise, I was quite a bit older. They re-enrolled me to a religious school. And the first day, I came from the principal's office. I'm being led to a classroom. And the teacher had to make a quick stop somewhere. And he told me to go to a room. Well, I entered the all-boys classroom. And the religious school boys and girls were separate. They were saying their morning prayer. And they seen a girl walk in, they all started to laugh. I found an empty seat. I took off my coat. I put on my backpack. And when they're finished with the prayer, the teacher turns to me and asks me naturally in Hungarian, what do you think you are doing here? I said, can't you see? I came to learn, but I answered in German. So the whole school found out that a young girl came back who was in the camps. I picked up Hungarian in record time. By the way, a few days after that incident, a lot of people came over with pictures, wanting to know if I recognized some of their relatives who didn't come back. They were crying. I cried with them. I became an excellent student until the communist government decided that a Jewish school is no longer acceptable, and the school was closed down. And I had to attend public school, where I encountered anti-Semitism from some of the teachers. So my grades started to go down. those days it was mandatory to finish 8th grade. And after 8th grade, you could start to work. Well, they decided that I'm not such a good student. I should learn a trade. All my friends continued in gymnasium, which is like high school. Well, at age 14 and a half and 15, I could be pretty proactive. I searched around and I found a place where I could study chemistry. I said, I'm good in math, I should be okay in chemistry. So I applied for a technical school. In order to qualify, you had to pass a summer exam. I did exceptionally well, and the school accepted me. But the factory said, I'm not entitled to go to school because I'm not a member of the Communist Party. The school fought for me, and I ended up working full time and going to night school full time. On October 23rd, 1956, the Hungarian Revolution broke out. And believe it or not, I was one of the students front of the parliament demanding equal rights. The chaos that followed afterwards was terrible. I collected a very few belongings. One of them was my prayer book and my Red Cross certificate. In case I'm being stopped at the border, I can say I came to help people. Fortunately, I crossed over from Hungary to Austria. I ended up in Vienna. And those days, President Eisenhower had a special program for people who studied science. And I fell into that category. And I was among the first ones to be granted refugee status. I arrived on January 1957, you can see but a short time, to the United States, where my new mother had a brother who lived in Los Angeles. And they were absolutely wonderful accepting me. My parents arrived a short time later. By the way, I didn't speak a single word English. And the first sentence somebody taught me, a young man, you should tell people that you are a hungry Hungarian. Actually, just like you, everybody laughed until I found out what I was saying. On a blind date, I met another Holocaust survivor. 4 weeks later, he proposed. 4 weeks later, we got married. And the dream of having a family became a reality. We had 4 children together. While my kids were young, my late husband was very, very supportive and encouraged me to go back to school. I first attended community college, then I transferred to UCLA. I ended up getting a degree in psychology. I changed my majors. And I became a social worker. I worked for a number of over 10 years at Jewish Family Service. I did mention that when I came back, I was told, don't talk about your past. My late husband kind of believed in the same thing. So I never talked about what happened to me during the Holocaust. And one day I was invited to dinner, and next to me sat a lovely lady who heard my accent. You don't hear my accent, do you? And she said, I love to interview you. Her name is Dr. Sarah Moscovich. And I said, I'm really not interested in being interviewed. Believe it or not, those days I was pretty timid about it. She said, by the way, I'm starting a support group. The support group will have people just like you who were children during the Holocaust. Well, that sounded something I really wanted to participate in. So that was back in 1982. So she interviewed me for the first time, and I ended up joining the support group. And somebody called us the Phantom Siblings. We really became like sisters and brothers. And by the way, I just came back from an international jazz survivor conference, which was over this weekend. This weekend, I came back yesterday. Why do I tell my story? It's really for multi reasons. One of them, people say the Holocaust never happened. When you listen to an individual story, it's something I think you can understand a little better. And as you can see, I gave my story through the eye of a child. I want to make sure that the future generation will remember. I have been very, very fortunate. I met Elie Wiesel many times, and he states that every Holocaust survivor's obligation is to speak for the people who no longer can speak for themselves. My other reason, I put tremendous emphasis on education. Education is one thing that nobody can take away from you. And I like to ask you not to be a silent observer where something happens around you which isn't right. So I'm looking at you to be my future ambassadors, to carry on the legacy. And I thank you so much for your attention. That I gave you some time to ask questions. Yes.
What happened to the ring that you slipped under your tongue?
When I was in Sweden, I started to eat and grow. And I took up my ring from my ring finger and I put it on my small finger. And one day, as I was washing my hand, the ring slipped out. And I was so devastated. And this lovely lady, Luba, she said, Eva, a personal possession doesn't carry on the memory. You will have it in your heart and soul as long as you live. But I do miss my ring.
You're a sweet woman.
Excuse me?
I said you're a sweet woman.
Thank you.
Do you have a number?
No, I do not have a number because I wasn't in Auschwitz, thank God. The number was given in Auschwitz, and children of my age, both of my grandmothers ended up in Auschwitz. I had 10 first cousins. One of my aunt had twins, and my grandmother carried one of the twin, and my aunt carried the other twin into the